Today, we're diving deep into the world of Antonín Dvořák,
A Czech composer.
a major figure. And his music still has this incredible power to move us, to connect with something deep within us.
It really does. He lived a fascinating life, full of creativity from 1841 to 1904.
A pretty good run.
We've got this overview of his life, his musical ideas, the things that shaped him,
Like his influences.
It's all here.
Yeah.
And today, our goal, well, it's to go beyond just the facts.
To get to the human story behind the music.
The man himself.
His journey.
And how all of that is woven into his work as a composer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where do we begin?
At the beginning, naturally.
With his early life.
Dvořák was born in a small village in Bohemia,
Nielohozes.
and very early on, it was clear the kid had talent,
Musical talent.
especially on the violin. But
Yeah.
there's something else, too, something crucial.
What's that?
His Bohemian heritage
Ah, yes.
and his strong Christian faith.
Deeply rooted in those things.
These were fundamental to who he was. They colored his whole life. And, of course, his music.
It makes you think about those early sounds, doesn't it? The rhythms of his childhood, the cultural landscape, all of it must have seeped into his musical soul.
Definitely. And then, you've got his formal education.
That plays a big part, obviously.
His first teachers, Joseph Spitz, Antonin Lehmann,
And
Hansenko. These guys laid the groundwork, prepared him for the next step, the Prague Organ School.
a serious musical education.
A stepping stone, really.
So after he finishes his studies, what happens? It wasn't instant fame, was it?
Not quite.
Those early years as a professional musician.
Well, to pay the bills, he played viola in an orchestra.
Yeah.
Gave piano lessons on the side.
The life of a working musician.
He was composing too, but his early pieces,
Yeah.
they didn't exactly make waves.
Interesting. So you're saying this was a guy driven to create, even when the world wasn't really paying attention.
It's right, a deep inner drive.
And then, of course, a big moment comes along, a turning point.
1874. The year everything changed, the Austrian State Prize.
Who won it?
He did. And it wasn't just the award itself, it was who was on the jury.
Who?
Johannes Brahms.
Brahms. Now we're talking.
One of the titans of music history.
Huge.
And Brahms was, blown away by Dvořák's talent. According to our sources, visibly overcome, in fact, by his mastery and talent.
This was more than just being impressed.
Right. Brahms went out of his way to support Dvořák.
In a practical way.
He recommended him to his publisher, Simrock.
Wow.
It was access that Dvořák wouldn't have had otherwise. It really shows the power of mentorship, in the arts especially. Someone believes in you, opens doors for you.
Incredible.
And that leads us to the piece that launched Dvořák internationally.
The one that put him on the map.
Simrock commissioned him to write the Slavonic dances, Opus 46.
The Slavonic dances.
And they took off. Huge international success. A critic, Louis Ehlert, said they'd travel around the world, praised their heavenly naturalness.
Heavenly naturalness. I like that. What made them so popular?
Well, part of it was how Dvořák took these Bohemian folk melodies, these rhythms, and blended them with, sophisticated romantic orchestration.
So it's fresh and familiar at the same time.
Exactly. It captured this growing nationalistic feeling in Europe, but it was also top-notch musically.
A winning combination.
The Slavonic dances, they sold like crazy. Critical acclaim, the whole 9 yards.
It changed his career.
Did.
From a local musician to a global name. Amazing. And after that, his reputation just kept growing, especially in Great Britain.
Great Britain embraced him. Performances of his Stabat Mater in London, starting in 1883, they made a real impact.
Stabat Mater.
A powerful piece, choral work, big scale, emotionally intense. Audiences loved it. The spirituality, the beautiful melodies.
London couldn't get enough of him.
Pretty much. More and more performances all over the UK.
He was in demand.
Commissions from big names, the London Philharmonic Society. He even conducted his own works in London.
To great acclaim.
Including the premiere of his 7th Symphony. A huge success.
So Britain was good to him?
It was. And then, from there, he heads off to a whole new continent.
America.
1892, he takes the job of director of the National Conservatory of Music of America in New York City.
A big move.
A new artistic landscape. And the money was good, at least at first.
At least at first.
Until the Panic of 1893. The economic downturn, that created some issues.
A mix of opportunity and challenges in the new world. But even with the difficulties, this was a super productive time for him creatively, wasn't it?
It was. Some of his most famous works come from his American years. The Symphony from the New World, for instance.
A classic.
His cello concerto. The American String Quartet.
All those pieces we still hear today. And it wasn't just composing. He had some really interesting thoughts about the future of American music.
He was intrigued by the musical traditions of African Americans and Native Americans.
He thought they were key to a distinct American sound.
He did. He even said, through the music of Native Americans and African Americans, Americans would find their own national style of music.
Pretty forward-thinking for the time.
Right. A vision of American music rooted in its own diverse cultures.
How did that go over, incorporating these forms into what was considered classical music?
It's a fascinating question. His ideas were shaped by his experiences, meeting Harry Burleigh, for example.
Who introduced him to?
African-American spirituals. Those melodies, the rhythms, they really struck a chord with him, strengthened his belief that this was the path to a truly American sound.
It's amazing. Someone from a completely different background, recognizing the power of these indigenous musical forms. And outside of the music, what about his personal life?
Well, he was married to Anna Chermakova, 9 children, a big family.
A full house.
Definitely important to him. And his friendships with other musicians, like
Yeah.
Brahms. They stayed close.
There was that story about Brahms.
Offering him financial help, saying, if you need anything, my fortune is at your disposal.
Incredible.
It speaks volumes about their relationship, the kind of support he gave Dvořák. And then there's Joseph Suk, his student,
Who ended up
marrying Dvořák's daughter.
Wow.
Shows how intertwined his personal and professional lives were. But even with all the success abroad, the pull of home was strong.
He missed Bohemia.
He did. And in 1895, he went back. Homesickness, plus, he was getting more and more recognition in Europe.
And he picked up where he left off.
He went back to teaching at the Prague Conservatory and started focusing more on opera.
Rusalka, his biggest hit in that genre.
Exactly. And his musical tastes, they evolved too. He was a fan of Wagner at first, but then he started leaning more towards the classical masters, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert especially. A shift towards those established structures, the melodic clarity.
So he got the recognition he deserved.
He did. Honors and awards. In Bohemia and internationally. He died in 1904, a major loss. He was buried in the Vierod Cemetery in Prague.
A national icon.
Dvořák's life. It's a remarkable journey, a young musician from a small village becoming this world-renowned composer.
His connection to his roots,
His dedication.
the people who helped him along the way,
All of that shaped his music.
and his time in America, his belief in the power of African American and Native American music.
He saw this unique American sound waiting to be born.
A vision that still resonates today. When we listen to Dvořák's music, I think we hear more than just notes. We hear a life, a journey, a dedication to craft.
What aspects of his personal story come through for you when you listen? What resonates?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Antonín Dvořák, A Life in Music.
A legacy that endures.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Until then,
Keep exploring.
and keep listening.